Chapter 3. The logistics of the end times. The physical world did not care about digital zeros. In the final ledger of humanity, a bank account with 9 digits was worth less than a single metric ton of non-hybrid seed, wheat, or a pallet of stabilized low-sulfur diesel. Marcus Vance understood this macroeconomic reality with the absolute clarity of a dead man, sitting at his newly installed, triple-redundant satellite workstation deep within the iron belly of Site Atlas C. He watched his liquid capital dissolve. He wasn't losing it. He was transmuting it. $120 million of electronic vapor was being systematically converted into the hard, heavy, physical infrastructure of survival. The digital countdown clock on the primary concrete bulkhead glowed a steady, unblinking amber. 152 days. 08 HR. Unpot plus min. 4 weeks had passed since he finalized the purchases of the silo. Above him, on the windswept plains of Fergus County, the surface world was progressing toward its predetermined doom. In the news cycles, corporate media anchors babbled endlessly about minor international border disputes and localized network glitches at major banking firms. The global elite shrugged it off as routine algorithmic friction. Marcus, monitoring the dark web and global logistics manifests through encrypted commercial VPN loops, knew better. The state-sponsored cyberweapon, a dormant polymorphic Trojan, dubbed Ouroboros, was already silently migrating through the firmware of every industrial SCADA system, power grid transformer, and satellite routing array on Earth. The fuse was lit. The world just hadn't heard the spark yet. Let them talk, Marcus murmured, his fingers flying across his mechanical keyboard. The louder they boast, the harder they starve. Part 1. The Hoarding Matrix. Survival was not a matter of luck, it was a matter of sheer weight. Marcus's first priority was the acquisition of mass. Under the banner of Acheron Logistics LLC, he rented 5 massive commercial warehouses across 4 states: Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. These warehouses acted as filtration centers. If a single customer ordered 20 tons of freeze-dried rations to a rural Montana address, federal tracking algorithms would instantly flag it as domestic prepper activity. But if 5 separate logistics companies ordered massive quantities of food, industrial medical supplies, and fuel to standard commercial distribution hubs, it was simply Tuesday on Wall Street. Marcus began with the baseline. The caloric runway. Through wholesale brokers specializing in humanitarian aid and long-term government emergency contracts, Marcus purchased industrial quantities of high-density, freeze-dried MREs meals, ready-to-eat from Oregon, freeze-dry, and various military surplus liquidators. He didn't buy the cheap, consumer-grade survival buckets advertised on late-night television. He ordered military specification, double vacuum-sealed, nitrogen-flushed MRE cases with a certified shelf life of 35 years, 40 tons of high-protein pinto beans and hard white winter wheat, 12,000 cases of military-grade rations, rich in animal fats and essential amino acids, 2,000 gallons of pure, industrial-grade Hunya food source that literally never spoils, 10 metric tons of iodized salt, sugar, and basic spices. In the post-apocalyptic world, blandness was a psychological killer. Salt would be more valuable than gold doubloons. Next came ***. The medical arsenal. The true killer in a societal collapse wasn't the violence. It was the lack of basic pharmacology. A simple tooth infection or a deep laceration from a rusted piece of metal would become an absolute death sentence without antibiotics. Using his capital, Marcus approached a series of shell pharmaceutical distributors in India and Eastern Europe, bypassing domestic FDA limits through bulk commercial reimportation licenses. He spent over $4 million on specialized medical crates. He hoarded broad-spectrum antibiotics, amoxicillin, ciprofloxacin, and doxycycline, by the hundreds of thousands of doses. He packed pallets of localized anesthetics, surgical kits, surgical staplers, trauma shears, and industrial volumes of Salox-infused hemostatic gauze, designed to clot arterial bleeding in seconds. He purchased 3 commercial-grade portable X-ray machines, 5 autoclaves for sterilizing surgical instruments, and an industrial-scale refrigerated vault, specifically to store thousands of vials of insulin, epinephrine, and tetanus antitoxins. If you don't have medicine, you don't have a colony, Marcus muttered, checking off the digital manifests as the shipments began arriving at his intermediate Montana warehouse. You just have a cemetery waiting for a cold winter. Then came the dark, essential weight. Asterisk, asterisk, the Iron Ledger. Asterisk, asterisk. Marcus was no pacifist. He had felt the physical sensation of being stomped to death by men wearing designer winter gear. He knew that the thin veneer of bourgeois morality would dissolve within 72 hours of the lights turning off. The elite neighbors of Silverwood, who currently cried over organic fair trade coffee metrics, would become ruthless, bloodthirsty savages the moment their children missed 3 consecutive meals. Through a series of gray market arms dealers operating out of Texas and a network of Class 3 firearms manufacturing licenses he acquired through corporate buyouts, Marcus bypassed the standard bureaucratic waiting lists. A convoy of unmarked, armored transport trucks began arriving at the rural Fergus County plot under the cover of midnight. Marcus stood at the hatch, his face completely cold, supervising the unboxing of the arsenal. 200 modern mil-spec Sig Sauer MCX Virtues. Carbines chambered in 5.56mm standardized, lethal, and mechanically flawless. 100 Remington, 700 bolt-action rifles, modified with precision night vision and thermal optics for perimeter defense. 50 heavy, belt-fed FN M249 light machine guns to lock down the valleys and choke points leading to the silo. 500,000 rounds of 5.56mm NATO ammunition. 200,000 rounds of .308 precision ammunition, and a massive, lead-lined crate containing 50,000 rounds of 12-gauge tactical buckshot. Marcus picked up a freshly unboxed carbine, checking the bolt action. The crisp, clean, metallic clack of the steel bolt chambering a dummy round echoed beautifully through the concrete launch bay. He didn't feel excitement. He felt nothing but a cold, mathematical satisfaction. In his past life, he had possessed 0 weapons. He had trusted the gated community's private security detailer group of rent-a-cops who ran away the very first night the power went out. This time, Marcus whispered, his thumb clicking the safety selector back to safe. No one steps on my grass and lives to brag about it. Part 2. The logistics of the deep. Acquiring the Hoard was only half the battle. Transporting it 50 feet beneath the earth without attracting local suspicion was the true logistical masterpiece. Marcus utilized a rolling schedule of midnight deliveries. He hired local, independent flatbed trucking companies who were paid triple the standard market rate in cash, under the condition that they dropped their shipping containers at the surface barn and left immediately. No questions asked. Once the drivers were gone, Marcus used an industrial, heavy-duty Caterpillar rough-terrain forklift he had bought outright to move the heavy containers into the barn. Inside the barn, hidden beneath a false floor of rotted timber, was the entrance to a commercial freight elevator shaft that connected directly to the silo's subterranean cargo BAI feature he had covertly cleared and restored using Titan Defense Solutions. For 18 hours a day, Marcus worked alone in the dark. He drove the forklift, hauled the crates, organized the subterranean steel shelves, and logged every item into his local database. His hands became calloused, his shoulders lean and hard. The soft, pampered billionaire who used to spend his mornings getting custom-tailored in Milan was completely gone. He organized the silo with mathematical precision. Level 1. The upper tier. The defensive armory, security command center, and fuel storage bays. Marcus installed 4 custom-built, double-walled steel fuel bladders, filling them with 60,000 gallons of premium, stabilized ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel, treated with industrial-grade biocides to prevent degradation for up to 10 years. Level. To the mid-tier. The closed-loop hydroponics bay project, Demeter, and the submarine class air water filtration vaults. Project Boreas. Level 3. The deep tier. Asterisk. Asterisk. The living quarters, the primary server arrays, and the massive temperature-controlled food and medical vaults. By the end of month 3, the cargo bay was a work of structural art. Rows of heavy industrial racking stretched into the darkness, loaded with uniform, military green crates. Everything was cataloged with RFID tags. If Marcus needed a specific dosage of generic amoxicillin or a replacement spring for an MCX bolt carrier group, his terminal could pinpoint its exact coordinate within 3 centimeters. Part 3. The Dark Network. On day 120 of the countdown, the structural overhauls were reaching completion, but Marcus faced his greatest technical hurdle, the Dark Network. When Ouroboros struck, it wouldn't just kill the power lines. It would fry the global satellite communications arrays, tear down the undersea fiber optic cables, and render the standard internet a useless landscape of dead copper and glass. The GPS network would drift into error within days. The world would become functionally blind and deaf. Marcus sat at his central command console, surrounded by 4 top-tier network engineers. He had flew in from South Korea under an absolute international corporate lockup contract. They were paid $500,000 each. Their passports held in a secure vault, forbidden from contacting the outside world until their work was finalized. I don't care about the standard satellite internet, Marcus told the lead engineer. A brilliant, cynical woman named Ji Young. Assume every Starlink satellite currently orbiting the Earth becomes a piece of uncontrolled space junk in 4 months. I need a localized, hardened network that can survive a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse. Hemp. Young chewed on a piece of nicotine gum, looking at the complex radio frequency mapping of Montana on her screen. If the satellite network dies, you are restricted to line of sight or shortwave communication, Mr. Vance. Unless we build a proprietary tropospheric scatter network. Explain, Marcus demanded. We use high-power, military-grade microwave transceivers mounted on the mountain ridges surrounding your valley, Kyung explained, pointing to 3 distinct coordinates on the topographic map. We bounce the signals directly off the troposphere, the lowest layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It requires immense power, but it completely bypasses the satellite network. It cannot be jammed by standard cyber warfare, and it's entirely independent of the public internet grid. We can link your silo to 5 hidden, armored surveillance outposts within a 50-mile radius. Do it, Marcus said. I also want a dedicated array of hardened, EM-resistant optical fiber lines buried 6 feet underground, connecting the silo to a series of high-definition, thermal, and night vision cameras hidden in the pine trees across the entire valley. For 3 weeks, Ji Young's team worked under Marcus's cold, unblinking surveillance. They installed military-grade, Faraday-shielded server racks deep within the silo's 3rd level. They erected 3 disguised, ultra-low-profile microwave antennas on the jagged limestone cliffs above the valley, painting them to look like standard forestry department wildlife trackers. When the network was booted up, Marcus's main control room transformed into an omniscient digital panopticon. A wall of 24 4K monitors flickered to life, displaying crystal-clear, real-time thermal imagery of the surrounding wilderness. Marcus could see a lone deer moving through the trees 3 miles away. He could track the heat signature of a stray hawk nesting on a cliff face. The entire valley was wired. It was an invisible, digital tripwire network. If a single human being stepped onto his 20-acre perimeter 6 months from now, Marcus would know their heart rate, their body temperature, and the exact weight of the weapon they were carrying before they even saw his rusted chain-link fence. Part 4. The bitter taste of wine. With the engineering teams finalizing their work, Marcus decided to check his personal terminal one evening before sending the Korean engineers back on their charter flight. A localized ping flared on his screen. It was an automated notification from a premium credit card monitoring algorithm he had set up to watch his family's financial collapse. Decline. Transaction at Chanel Boutique, Beverly Hills. Amount 18 450,000 IC. Cardholder Eleanor Vance. Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, a slow, freezing chuckle escaping his throat. He clicked into the deep data logs. Over the past 30 days, Eleanor and Julian had filed 3 separate emergency motions in Washington state probate courts, attempting to freeze Marcus's liquidated assets, claiming he was experiencing a severe, drug-induced psychological break and was mentally unfit to manage the family legacy. But Marcus's legal defense team of ruthless, white-shoe corporate attorneys paid millions in retainer fees, had utterly crushed the motions before they even reached the judge's desk. Marcus had legally transferred every single cent out of his personal name and into the impenetrable maze of international blind trusts and offshore shell corporations months ago. On paper, Marcus Vance was a man with 0 assets, 0 bank accounts, and 0 footprint. He was a ghost. A new video file popped up on his notifications app, recording from his hidden pinhole camera inside the Silverwood Gated Community's private lounge. On the screen, Julian Vance was sitting at the mahogany bar, his face pale and slick with sweat. He was drinking heavily, his expensive silk tie loosened, shouting at a middle-aged man sitting next to him, Robert Sterling, the corrupt local judge who would, in Marcus's past life, sign the execution order to throw Marcus into the blizzard. He completely wiped the accounts. Robert, Julian snarled into his whiskey glass, his voice cracking with the panicked desperation of a parasite whose host had suddenly vanished. My dealership's inventory is being repossessed next week. The bank won't even pick up my calls. He left us with nothing but the monthly mortgage on the Silverwood house. How is this legal? Judge Sterling took a slow sip of his scotch, his expression dark and calculating. Calm down, Julian. Your stepbrother has clearly lost his mind. He's buying up old scrap metal and dirt in the mountains. Let him play his little game. When the winter hits and he runs out of cash, he'll come crawling back to Seattle. And when he does, we'll use his psychiatric records to take absolute control of everything he has left. Trust me, the system always protects its own. Marcus watched the monitor, his eyes reflecting the cold amber text of the countdown clock on the wall behind him. 152 days left. He reached out, his finger lightly tapping the glass of the screen, right over Judge Sterling's smug, prestigious face. The system, Marcus whispered, his voice dripping with an absolute, terrifying calm. You think the system is going to protect you, Robert? In 5 months, your courtroom will be a pile of ash. Your law books will be used as toilet paper. And that glass of scotch you're holding will be worth more than your entire life's work. Marcus stood up, turning his back on the monitors. He walked down the long, concrete corridor toward his private quarters, leaving the screens to flicker in the empty, iron silence of his castle. Let them scheme. Let them plan their lawsuits. Let them count their digital pennies. Marcus Vance was no longer playing their game. He was simply waiting for the clock to hit 0.